Hello and welcome back in, everybody. Today I got a brand new deck tech here for you for a new commander out of Caverns of Ixalan, the brand new set that's coming out just shortly here. I got a mono blue commander here for you today, and I've been really liking these low CMC or low mana value commanders that just do something really interesting or unique. So the one I'm talking about here today is going to be Malcolm, Alluring Scoundrel. It's 1 and a blue for a 2/1 legendary creature, Siren Pirate with flash and flying. I really like flash on your commander because you can put it out on essentially turn 2 on your opponent's end step to your right, and then you'll be able to swing with this right away, which really matters with this commander because it has a combat damage trigger. So whenever Malcolm, Alluring Scoundrel deals combat damage to a player, you put a chorus counter on it, and then you draw a card, then discard a card. But if there are 4 or more chorus counters on Malcolm, you get to cast the discarded card for free. So since we have a evasive combat damage trigger commander, I thought a mono blue Voltron strategy would actually be pretty viable, as well as cheating out some big scary threats that I will go into a little bit later that are just going to put some value in our pockets for free. So the first thing we want to do with this commander is going to be able to get those chorus counters up to 4 as fast as possible. So we have a few ways in the deck to do that. First up, we got the Proliferate option, which is the most obvious option. We got a few different options here. We have ones that continuously put counters on our commander when something happens, like Skyship Plunderer, 1 and a blue for a 2/1 human pirate with flying. It says whenever Skyship Plunderer deals combat damage to a player, for each kind of counter on target permanent or player, give that permanent or player another counter of that kind. Another one similarly, we got Flux Channeler, 2 and a blue for a 2/2 human wizard. It says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, proliferate. So we do have a lot of non-creature spells in this deck. As I stated, it is a Voltron deck, so we do have a lot of equipment and a lot of mana rocks and other things. So if we can get this one out a little earlier in the game, it's going to be easier to get our commander online. Then we also have some other proliferates in the deck, such as Experimental Augury, 1 and a blue for an instant. It says look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order, and then proliferate. So we have like some draw spells and other just regular things that you're going to need in your deck that also have proliferate tacked on. It's really nice that these came out a little bit earlier this year, so it kind of just fits really nicely in a deck like this, that you just want those little instances of proliferate that is really going to help out your strategy. We have a few other ways that we can give our commander those counters, and one of them is going to be with Double Strike. Since it is a combat damage trigger, if you have Double Strike on your commander and you hit them twice, that's going to be 2 counters. So the first one here I got is going to be the obvious one. This is probably the best one that we got. Fire Shrieker, 3 mana for an artifact equipment. It says equip creature has Double Strike and equip 2. So it's just really straightforward, comes down somewhat early. I think this is the cheapest option that you can get to give Double Strike to your commander. So, and it's pretty cheap to equip, so it's not too bad. Another one we got here, Brass Knuckles. It's 4 mana for an artifact equipment. When you cast this spell, you copy it, so you get 2 of them, and equip creature has Double Strike as long as 2 or more equipment are attached to it. So you cast this, you get 2 copies of it. You just have to pay 2 to equip both of them onto it, and it gives Double Strike. So this one's a little bit more expensive than the Fire Shrieker, but it is another option if we need it. And last but not least, we got Gavel of the Righteous. It's 2 mana for an equipment. It says at the beginning of combat on your turn, put a charge counter on Gavel of the Righteous. It says equip creature gets +1/+1 for each counter on Gavel of the Righteous, and as long as Gavel of the Righteous has 4 or more counters on it, equip creature has Double Strike. Also, the equip is pay 3, or you can remove a counter from the Gavel to equip it for no mana at all. So a few things we are going to note here. First of all, we want our commander to be bigger with the +1/+1 for each counter on it, because this is a Voltron deck. We're pretty much going to be winning with commander damage for the most part. So to be able to get those counters on it, it's going to be really nice, especially you don't need this equipped to a creature for that charge counter to be put on it on each of your combat steps. Also, since we have a lot of proliferate in the deck, you could amp up those charge counters just like we're putting on extra counters onto our Malcolm. So I really like this one if we're going for the Double Strike. However, it does take a little bit for the Double Strike to get online, but I still think it's really worth it to have it in the deck. And then similar to Gavel of the Righteous, you know, we have some other cards that are putting counters on themselves that we can proliferate and then buff up our commander, like Sword of Hours. It's 2 mana for an equipment. It says whenever equipped creature attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and whenever equipped creature deals combat damage, roll a d12. If the result is greater than the damage or the result is 12, you double the number of +1/+1 counters on that creature. So this one, unlike the Gavel, puts counters on our commander, not on itself, but that's still really useful because if we just have the proliferate for like 1 creature, it'll proliferate all of the counters, meaning the chorus counters and the +1/+1 counters from the Sword of Hours. So that one's really strong. I like that one a lot. And last one I'm going to be talking about in this category is going to be Banshee's Blade. It's 2 mana for an equipment. It says equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each charge counter on Banshee's Blade. Whenever an equipped creature does combat damage, you put a charge counter on this card, equip 2. So for this one, again, you're going to be putting those charge counters on it, and your commander is going to be getting bigger because of it. And then obviously you can proliferate them with all your proliferate cards that you have in the deck. So this is a bit of a budget build. So if you wanted to add some of those those more expensive proliferate cards to even help out all this strategy, stuff like Inexorable Tide, and I think there's a few other ones that are a little bit over $10 or something like that. You could throw that into the deck. I'm personally not going to because I believe I have this deck around 50, 60 bucks right now. So that is my take on the deck. But if you want to upgrade yours, feel free to. Next, I'm going to be going up into the draw of the deck. So we do have a lot of small draw options that are going to be able to help us get up to a full hand when we need it, especially if our commander's not online. Say if it dies when it has the chorus counters or whatever, and you don't have those free drops off of the discard. We do have stuff like Curiosity. It's 1 mana for an aura. It says whenever enchanted creature deals damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. So you can put this on really early on your commander because it's only 1 mana. Every time it connects, you're going to be drawing 2 cards, 1 off of Curiosity, 1 off of Malcolm's ability on its own. So you have cards like that in the deck to help you get the plan going, but we also have in the same category a few high-costed cards that are going to propel us really far in the game if we are able to discard them with our commander's ability and cast them for free, such as Amanatu's Augury. It's 6 blue, so 8 mana for a sorcery. That's a lot, but if we can cast it for free, it's insanely worth it. Exile the top 8 cards of your library. You may put a land card from among them onto the battlefield, so that ramps you. Also, until end of turn, for each non-land card type, you may cast a spell of that type from among the exiled cards without paying its mana cost. So you get to play this for free off your commander's ability. You exile the top 8, get a land. You can potentially get 3, 4, 5 other free cards. So it just kind of snowballs you ahead. If you get to discard just this 1 card alone, there's so much free value you get off of that. So that's really going to put you in the lead. Next up in the draw category, we got Arcanus, the Omnipotent. You know, he's a classic. 3 blue for a 3/4 wizard. Tap, draw 3 cards, and you can pay 2 blue to return Arcanus to its owner's hand. I don't really foresee us ever using that ability. It's mainly just to tap and draw 3 cards. So if you can get this guy out for free with your commander's ability, tapping to draw 3 cards is pretty insane every turn. And lastly here, I got the Magic Mirror. 6 blue for a legendary artifact that says this spell costs 1 less to cast for each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard. So it's possible that we could hard cast this late in the game if we need to, if we can't get our commander's ability online. However, it also says you have no maximum hand size, always great. And at the beginning of your upkeep, put a knowledge counter on the Magic Mirror, then draw a card for each knowledge counter on the Magic Mirror. So if we can get this out super quickly, say we proliferate our commander a couple times by like turn 3 or 4, and you get this guy out, start putting the counters on it, you can be drawing a lot of cards. Also, it really works well with our proliferate. So proliferate those counters, drawing a bunch of cards in your upkeep. It's just really good value. I like it a lot. Next here, I'm going to be talking about some of the ramp in the deck. Because we're playing a proliferate deck, you're going to want some cards like Replicating Ring. It's 3 mana for a snow artifact. I don't know if that matters. If you want to put in some snow synergy, I suppose you can just for this 1 card, but it says tap, add 1 mana of any color, and at the beginning of your upkeep, put a night counter on Replicating Ring. Then if it has 8 or more night counters on it, remove all of them and create 8 colorless snow artifact tokens named Replicating Ring with tap, add 1 mana of any color. So this is just really good ramp. If we can get this out turn 2 or 3 and start proliferating those counters on it, it could end up putting us way in the lead with a ton of mana, so we can either cast more of our big spells or just some of our smaller ones, some equipment and stuff to help us win the game there. Another cool one here that works well with the proliferate theme is Astral Cornucopia. It's XXX for an artifact. It says Astral Cornucopia enters the battlefield with X charge counters on it. So it's gonna be 3 for 1, 6 for 2, and 9 for 3. So you pretty much only gonna want to put 3 mana into this unless you have more just to spare. Put 3 mana into this, put the charge counter on it, and then you can proliferate those counters later. And what does it do? It says tap, choose a color, add 1 mana of that color for each charge counter on Astral Cornucopia. So obviously you're gonna be choosing blue with this. If you proliferate multiple times a turn or multiple times throughout the game while you have this just gets better and better as the game goes on. The more cards that you can find like this that have the charge counters or any type of counters on them, really, when you're in a proliferate deck like this, it's just insane value for what you're actually getting for it, because, you know, normally you're supposed to be paying the triple X as many times as you need the charge counters on it. But for like this guy, you just proliferate those counters and you're getting insane value off that. So I really like the synergy there. Another little fun one I got here doesn't have anything to do with the proliferate, but it's Retraced Image. It's 1 blue for a sorcery. Reveal a card in your hand, then put that card into play if it has the same name as a permanent in play. So I would only play this card pretty much in a mono blue deck, because if you have an island in play, an island in your hand, you know, turn 1, you have this card and 2 islands in your hand. You play your island, tap that, cast Retrace Image, then you play the other island, and now you're 2 mana on turn 1. Then that lets you play your commander on turn 2, and then hold up something like a Slip Out the Back or a 1 mana counter spell like an Offer You Can't Refuse to hopefully save your commander if somebody's going to go after it, since they know you're going to be wanting to get in for damage early. Then that's pretty much all I got for the deck. I don't really have too much in the way of utility this time around. So the main strategies you're going to be wanting to do in this deck is going to be the Voltron thing. So get in the combat damage with your commander, protect it when you can with like Swiftfoot Boots and other sort of protection abilities. Also, I put a ton of counter spells in the deck, not to be a control blue player, but to be able to stop our opponents from killing our commander, because it's really detrimental if we get our commander up to those, like, say we're 3 counters deep and someone goes to remove it, that is 3 turns worth of work on our commander's ability alone, as opposed to, you know, proliferating it, which would be a lot faster. But if you're only using the commander's ability to get those counters on it, it's going to take a long time to get that up, and you really don't want all that work to go to waste. So that's pretty much all I got here for the deck. If you guys want to check out the full deck list, it's down in the description. Go to my Architect link and you can check out everything I put together. Let me know down in the comments what exactly you would change in this deck, what you would add, stuff that you would make better in the deck. So just something I threw together for the new set. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I'm going to see you guys in the next video. All right, take care.